And so just to respect everybody's time, we'll jump in. So if you're here now watching the recording, welcome to the Paper Giants and Parent Pro Tech webinar, specifically around digital safety. This is a conversation that's happening at PTA meetings. It's happening in small groups. It's happening in churches, and it's happening, I think, first, most prevalently in the minds of moms and dads around the nation. And so what Parent Pro Tech does is an unbelievable, outstanding both product and service that they're providing. And so when Paper Giants met them, it's like, I want to be a part of what they're doing, because I think it's such a felt need, and want to have a conversation today to help pastors and market leaders help moms and dads that I can't imagine. My oldest is 7, and so there's no unauthorized screen time right now, but I can't imagine when screens become a little bit more autonomous for her, that's going to be even more. I assume any mom and dad that their kids have any kind of screen time are not thinking a couple times a week, what is the ramification of this, and worried at minimum, if not bringing a lot of anxiety into the family dynamic. And so Brock, man, thank you so much for being a part, as Melvin as well. And I love that Melvin jumped on as well. It's just to add a little creative backstory to what's going on. So Brock, tell us a little bit about yourself, about Parent Pro Tech, and what are some really big things that you guys hope to be a part of solving this conversation around digital safety.
Yeah, and thank you for having us, and we love getting to partner with you all and the communities that y'all serve as well. Yeah, for me, come from a heavier government background. So spent time on Capitol Hill and at the White House for a little bit. Really there looked at like federal financial management, like the efficiency of spending of the taxpayer dollar, pretty much.
Efficiency being the key word. I think we can all agree that that's what we all feel in terms of how our money is spent. I believe it would be efficiency. If I could pick one word, it would be efficiency.
Yeah. The lack thereof, for sure. And so, yeah, so was in DC for a little bit. Kind of got tired of the polarization that DC had, shockingly, and made my way down to start working at SpaceX. Worked down in the valley, right along the U.S.-Mexico border. Learned a lot from the team there. And then early 2021 kept being approached by like parents and teachers and administrators with questions that they had about technology. And very, very quickly realized that there was kind of that disconnect between what people kind of hoped they knew about all of the platforms that our kids are surrounded by today, and what those platforms can actually be used for, or who they might actually be communicating with, or what type of content they could be so easily exposed to. And so Parent Pro Tech really began out of that realization. And we say, like, at the end of the day, if we cannot prevent just one kid from being trafficked, or help prevent just one kid from being cyberbullied, or help prevent just one kid from getting addicted to a screen, then we've won. So that's really where our hearts and our minds are. And so how we kind of initially launched is we realized that parents would come to us with questions. And so what can we do to empower more families to be more active, be more aware in what their kids are doing online? From there, we've now added a lot of student programming that a lot of youth pastors are using, a lot of teachers are using for in the classroom instruction too, kind of building the foundation of, how do I, as a student, as a child, leverage tech for good? Like, let's not hide under a rock and avoid the good that it does bring, but how do I minimize the bad and the ugly impacts? And how do I realize and understand that the reality of that situation? So, and we do a lot more on top of that, but those are kind of the two areas that we focus a lot of our time on.
Yeah, and that's kind of my follow-up question for you. It's almost like homeschool versus public school. Like, if there's all these potential pros and cons to both. If you homeschool, then they're going to have less social skills and those soft skills, and there's obviously worries on both ends. So to your point, we can't live under a rock. So what do you say to parents and families that, hey, we are in a digital age, both just culturally, that we don't want our kids to feel left out or feel like they are missing out? Because I don't know about you, I have FOMO like the worst case. So I couldn't imagine if my entire friend group was a part of something that I wasn't allowed to be on. So what are some practical things that ProTech does that kind of lives in that chasm between, hey, you have no clue how long your kids are on it, what they're watching, or who's watching them while they're on it, and what are the long-term psychological, emotional ramifications of that time versus you just can't, you don't even know how to use a phone in 2024 into the future, which seemingly won't be good for their professional career. So what does Parent
Yeah.
Protect say about that question?
Now that's a lot to unpack. But I'd say the first piece of it is like that education component that we focus a lot on. So like when we look at the stats, we see like kids who spend 3 or more hours on a day on social media face double the risk of depression and anxiety. We see there from the FBI, there are over 500,000 online active predators each and every day. We see the average age of pornography exposure being 8 years old today.
Wow.
And then one of the most heartbreaking that not the best stat in a lot of audiences, but the Girl Scouts organization told me that in their research right now, they see that 1 in 4 teenage girls today has a well thought out suicide plan. 1 in 4.
Wow.
And so I think that the first step, and every time I say that, it like hurts to even push it out of my mouth. But I think step 1 is kind of understanding the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
From there, I think we can identify the really big milestones in a child's digital journey. And that comes with what their first device that they have access to is. And so we, like through the ProTech platform, we try to do a lot of education on the safe platforms and devices that families can turn to when they need help, figuring out what phone they should get their child, or what watch, or what monitoring software they should have on the laptop, but also working directly with like education leaders, because today it's a lot of one-to-one learning. And so eventually they're either going to have that iPad that they use or have that Chromebook or whatever it might be. And so really being able to work alongside school leaders too, to make sure that the devices that they're mandating that kids have and use are also have all the safety concerns buttoned up too. And so I think both of those areas we focus a lot on, but our philosophy that we have on the tech conversation is like, if we have a pyramid, the base of that pyramid at the end of the day has to be the relationship that a parent builds with their child on tech. So it's like having the conversation, leaning in, and even if the parent's on a gamer, like hopping on the Nintendo Switch or hopping into Fortnite and playing a match or two. It's because at the end of the day, if that tip of the pyramid, which is restrictions, if that's all that the parent is hoping to do in this online safety battle, it's going to fall apart. Very, very quick. And so that's really our philosophy. Like, how do we create and foster that communication between a family and their child to help that family navigate the ever-changing tech realm?
No, it's so good. I love the pyramid as well. And so, because if all a parent is in relationship to what they believe is true joy and life everlasting, which is Fortnite. Apparently the new season came out. I'm not even sure what those words fully mean. I've heard parents with older kids have that. There's new skins and there's all things I don't even know what I'm saying. But I love the thought of, obviously the base of this entire thing is relationships. And so I hope people really hear that and really take the time. And I don't think that would be surprising to most pastors and teachers and families, but it's also great to a reminder to have those conversations and be a part of things, even if it's not your favorite thing. What are schools saying about this in terms of like, what are they just kind of like, hey, we're aware of it, but we got enough going on right now with however many kids in the public school system? What are public schools specifically? Are there any strategies and action steps, or is it just like, hey, Parent Protect, come, help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi, your only hope? Like, what is their, they know it clearly. If the Girl Scouts have these statistics, if you guys have these statistics, we have these social media, we understand it, but the phone is a necessary evil, and Chromebooks for their schooling. And so what are some public schools, or what are some conversations that you hear around plans or just the current reality?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, so for the most part, I think everyone realizes that there's an issue. In the book, The Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt, written by Jonathan Haidt, he talks about kind of the four foundational harms of tech, and it's addiction, um, uh, social deprivation, sleep deprivation, and then the fourth one that I just had in my mind. It's I'm losing. It'll come back to me.
You're fine. 3 out of 4 off the top of the dome is not bad. It's not bad.
Hey, attention fragmentation is the
Okay.
fourth. And so obviously the big ones impacting how kids learn, how teachers teach is going to be attention fragmentation, sleep deprivation.
Right.
Because kids just won't be really able to do any of their work or listen, learn, all of that. Same true for probably the battle that some youth pastors have.
Right.
Is, when kids show up on Sunday or the youth group on Wednesday, like getting them to focus and not fall asleep sometimes. And so I think everyone, especially when you tie in the mental health impacts,
right.
Everybody realizes that there is a large issue. And even like, that's why we're really excited about our partnership with Faith Promise Church in Knoxville, is like our Protect platform, on-demand resources, curriculum, all that. We're doing like a teacher professional development on a Monday night, and then a family presentation on Tuesday night, and then all the congregation and all those educators will have access to that platform and the curriculum. And I think that's kind of a unintended, really cool thing that I've seen since we created Protect, was like that churches are using the platform to bring the community in the door, and maybe that can be that seed that can foster into coming back the following Sunday, or get that ball rolling. But yeah, so long story short, I feel like schools are realizing the importance of equipping students to navigate the online world safely, and also empower their families and their educators to figure out, like, so how do I even begin? You know what I mean?
No, that's good. And so for my own education, is the numbers similar to social media and video games? Is that in the same sector in these surveys? Because like you say, 3 hours or more, obviously they're more likely to, all the bad things, they're more likely, double, triple, with anxiety and depression and all these different things. Is the same true of the mental health ramifications when it comes to, so if I was to play Fortnite for 3 hours, and if I was on TikTok for 3 hours, is that the same thing potentially in terms of addiction and sleep deprivation and attention fragmentation, but in terms of like the real mental issues when terms of comparison or bullying? Is it, for a parent listening, Fortnite and TikTok same, or is there room in that?
I would say different.
Okay.
At the same point, I'd say that from a legislative, like, under a microscope right now lately, it's been social media and the big tech giants under that microscope.
Right.
And so I think because of that, there's been more of that research to link to the different issues. I mean, when we talk about the addiction piece and sleep deprivation, obviously gaming checks that.
I think most parents are cool with their kids being tired and not suicidal, though. As that, if, like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm just trying to figure out, even for my own education, but for some parents, it's like, hey, they're not on TikTok at least. they're just whatever Fortnite's happening for hours. And so I just and to your point that the government's been far more interested in the future of some of these tech giants than it is the gaming. I don't know if it's because it's more diversified and it's not as centralized or whatever have you, but I was just interested
Yeah.
out there.
Well, and I think federal policy is going to start to include more of the gaming piece. So I think that's something to be on the lookout for. But
Right.
on on the social deprivation piece, when it comes to gaming, a lot of kids, like their friends from school, when they get home at the end of the day, they want to go play Fortnite or whatever it is with their
Right.
friends. Which obviously it's a little different than like, you know, going to the park and playing a game of basketball or doing stuff like that, like getting out and into the real world, breathing the fresh air, all that type of stuff.
Right.
But I mean, we definitely see positive things that the gaming world brings. And so like our gaming creator that we have, John Rush, pastor at Elevation Church, or just took on some new projects.
Right.
Like that's why we're really excited about like his ministry through the gaming world and kind of opening up doors through that. But that's kind of, we try to have subject matter experts on our team that are on these games all the time, interacting with creators themselves, like John is, to really meet families where they are on the tech journey and have that relevant subject matter expert.
Which again is which I love the platform. First of all, the platform's unbelievably well put together, and then obviously Melvin joining. Can't wait to see how he takes to the next level. But again, the platform. So oftentimes it feels like when there's like an educational curriculum that's trying to get involved in the cool space, like sex ed is just the most horrible situation in terms of talking about something that people think is awesome. People think video games and social media is awesome, and then this Square company comes in and it's like, hey, let's talk about safety around issues. But I think Parent ProTech, even from a visual standpoint, looks like a Netflix or social media platform. It is visually stimulating in terms of, and it's educational. So for parents and students, even if it's like, hey, I don't know exactly how some of the things that you think practically work, but like even it's like, let's just watch a video a night together as a family, just on whatever they're interested. Let the kid pick. And we're watching together. And again, I've seen these videos. They're just well thought out and engaging, and production quality is high, or it just looks like what they're watching someone play a bit. Like if you watch John Rush, like it looks like the people they watch play video games. And so I just feel like it's so visually similar that it's not this, tweed jacket, plaid, elbow pad thing. And they're like, hey, don't play video games anymore because it rots. Your eyes will go cross-eyed. You're sitting too close to the TV. And so I think that's such a modern take on it, which is really exciting. I have a question around the book Anxious Generation. I think you would say that's a book that a lot of parents potentially should read.
Totally.
But on a previous call with one of your team guys, Joshua, he said something about the book and said that the author said that we are overprotecting them from the real world and underprotecting them from the digital world. I don't know if he goes in more detail on that or what you think about that, and what just some things for parents and pastors listening. Because I've thought about that ever since that call. Like I've told everybody that I've said since that, like just that, and you see it resonating with them as well. Because we are the helmet and elbow pad. Like I just I don't consider myself old now, but I feel that way. Like I didn't come home and there wasn't jumping on video games with my friends. That wasn't you could do it around a console, but that still wasn't. It wasn't online. It wasn't so available, so easy to access, and so a part of like the language of how we speak. It's just not what it was. And so, what is that? Like, what are they missing from going to the Boys and Girls Club and playing real basketball and really actually feel the loss and seeing someone in person upset with them or excited for them versus they do experience real community on Fortnite. They do experience their friends winning the whatever when the last two standing or whatever the case may be. There's a true joy in that. I'm not saying there's not a dopamine hit that's hard to describe. No. But so that quote specifically, what do you think about that? And what do you think are some things moving forward that we think can do with the current reality? I don't think there's a shutdown button, right? We're not going to shut down all of technology tomorrow. That's not happening. And I don't think a lot of people we couldn't be having this conversation. There are so many things good that are happening. And so with the current reality, what do you think about overprotecting from the real world and underprotecting from the digital world, what are some things that we can do?
Yeah, I love that clip that you posted from Joshua's the conversation y'all had. No, I think the hard thing about the tech battle is a lot of families have these myths that they battle with, and so like one of them is, my kid goes to the nice school, we live in a nice neighborhood, my kid would never do that.
Right.
And uh, I think the really big battle here is, it's a lot different than like the scary, creepy van that would drive through the neighborhood, or
Right.
you know, uh, the hard thing is like all of these cases of like bullying or trafficking or sextortion, which is a big one right now, is
What'd you say? What was that?
sextortion.
Sex extortion?
Yes.
Can you unpack that
Yeah. So
real quick for me?
there's a rise in the amount of cases right now falling under that category, and it's really, like the most recent that we responded to was a girl in the Houston area. She had a public facing Instagram account. This person went in, screenshotted all of her pictures, and then ran it through a deepfake image generator, like a Nudify app, which there are hundreds of now.
Right.
And then sent her those pictures saying like, if you don't give me the money or do XYZ, then I'm going to leak all of these to your community, to your
Wow.
parents, to your friends, all your teachers, everything.
Okay.
And the
So
really scary,
that makes sense. I just didn't know. You kind of blew by that. I'm like, hey, you can't say sextortion and then not camp out. Like, give me a little second to breathe.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
it's, and the scary thing is, you know, when we talk about like suicide numbers, right now, a lot of it is being in the conversations that we're in is being caused by sextortion cases like that. And it's kind of to the point where the kid is like, I didn't do anything wrong,
Right.
but also feels like their world is going to come tumbling down if they leak those photos.
Sure.
Because it's so hard nowadays to figure out, was this AI generated, or was it real? And so really, really heartbreaking. But I think that just shows like we have to be having these conversations, and whether it's a parent or a youth pastor or whoever, like making it clear to your students that like as they navigate through life and navigate through the digital world, like knowing that they always have someone to turn to, and that if something does come up, like you're not going to be in trouble. We're going to support you. We're going to guide you through the process.
Right.
We're going to work with like hopefully the ProTech team to really support and figure out like working with Meta, working with law enforcement, FBI to make sure that everything is taken care of. And if things do get leaked, then going through the correct procedures that our team has set with a couple other experts to get that taken down too.
Wow. Wow. So would I be crazy out of line to say that there is a higher possibility of your child being abused online? So the creepy van now is in a digital space more than it is, because it feels like with social media and the storytelling and everything being so front, that it feels like it's more likely now than ever for your child to be taken or hurt. But based on what I've read, which is far more limited than yours, that that outside a family member, that's immediate or uncle, aunt, something like that, the chances of someone taking or hurting your child outside are actually pretty low physically. And it seems, based on what you're saying, that the white van with the candy bag needs to be that every kid, every mom and dad say, hey, what do we say if someone offers you something? Run away, stranger danger, all these things. And we're really, like you said, clear on those things. So I feel like the foundation of the pyramid and the top of the pyramid in terms of physical danger, like we're talking about, is even potentially over dramatized and over communicated. And now every kid is looking for a white van that don't exist at that much anymore. The white vans are sliding through the digital space. And so do you agree with that? And Like I want mom and dads to hear that if that were the case.
Yeah, I think obviously we're not saying like that situation doesn't ever happen anymore, but I think you hit it on the nail on the head with saying it's being kind of the first communication and like the grooming and all of that is happening in on the social media platforms. Um, and then unfortunately, then the like in person meetups happen, and then
Wow.
the so definitely a really scary thing to navigate. But also, I think it goes with like we have to educate our students on like if you get that weird little feeling in your stomach that the you know 18-year-old girl messaging you as a freshman in high school um, keeps asking weird questions and wanting more information that's really confidential and private. Like if you've got that weird feeling, probably good just to take a step back.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
and so I think that's kind of why we built that student programming and the curriculum piece is we want to really figure out like how we can create the dialogue.
Right.
Um, and also I think too, the peer to peer like conversations that can pop up through it is almost more important than like the video that Melvin and Joshua uh, put together uh, uh, just to help kind of kids like listening to each other.
Sure.
So yeah,
That's interesting. That's so interesting because that it's again, I don't want to make decisions for my family or help other families make decisions based on a feeling or some of my TikTok research, which is where a lot of my research comes from. But because that's what I kind of tell my wife. I'm like, hey, the chances of someone taking our child is actually relatively low, even though it feels high. But the digital space seems to be where more of the abuse is going to happen, either from their friends, from cyberbullying, or elsewhere. And so, just really not like a crying wolf situation, but kind of being a Paul Revere for this conversation of, hey, this is happening. I want parents to know that they're not powerless or resourceless or
yeah,
toolless in this moment. It's just like, hey, you may not be aware. It's hard to teach your kids something that you feel that they're more proficient in than you are. It's like, hey, how am I going to, as a parent, the parent kid relationship so often is, I know more than you, listen to me. But they know that the kid knows that they have to call them in to turn on the TV and how does this
yeah.
app work with this app. So what would you say to moms and dads and pastors that are pastoring moms and dads about that insecurity? How to parent when it comes to a space that the dynamic is switched, right? Mom and dad teach little Jimmy how to throw the ball, you know, how to
Yeah,
potty training, how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, how to read. But now it's like, well, little Jimmy at 8 years old can navigate the digital thing more than some moms and dads. And so, what's how do we give them more footing to speak with authority and to just get in the game?
I mean, I think there are a lot of ways to answer that one. I mean, I think our philosophy tends to be like if the parent can communicate with their child to figure out like what platforms they either want to be on or want a game on or whatever that is, and then comes in like the education component of like going to our library, investing that time and like understanding what it is, how to navigate it, what parental controls they have access to, conversation starters to have with your child about it. And from there, it's kind of that, uh, that it goes back to the conversations and building that dialogue between the two. Because I think at the end of the day, um, even though sometimes like a kid can laugh, I remember when my I mean even now when my parents talk about tech, I always kind of giggle because they butcher like the definition or like don't know what they're talking about, but at least they're trying. And I think
Right.
I realized that and did growing up too is like if I see that they're trying to understand and trying to meet me where I am on the tech journey, that bond definitely becomes greater. Um, and I think kind of like we talked about earlier, like unfortunately with like the content exposure numbers of like pornography by the age of 8 years old. It's not as much of like if it's gonna happen, but it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like when it's gonna happen. And so if we can create that relationship to be like when they see something that they shouldn't, that they rush to mom and dad or to the caregiver and really just like lean in and ask for that supporting guidance, and we catch it early. Because we don't want that type of stuff to fester and grow into larger issues as we move on. So yeah, hope I think that's kind of our philosophy, like lean in, and then that education piece, like turn to the partners who can help monitor. Because all these platforms are constantly changing too.
Okay.
So
in terms of, again, you said the anxious generation and some of the numbers you've seen with addiction, social deprivation, sleep deprivation, attention fragmentation. So I've got a 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. They're neck deep in this, and now they are addicted. And so I don't know if we treat this just like a drug addiction or any other type of addiction. Like, hey, this isn't just a stop doing this type of thing. I know. So what would you say to moms and dads and pastors, pastoring these moms and dads about what are some steps to, like, lean back a little bit? We've got to, if my, kids are just locked in and we cannot remove them, and taking them off the screen, we get an absolute global meltdown. So it's just easier for them to stay on. What are some ways you've seen Parent Protect come alongside and kind of mitigate some of the difficulty in going cold turkey or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, no, we see that quite a bit. I'd say, leveraging tools at those like whether it's using an iPhone, I think it's really important to like look at screen time each week and like have a set, like Monday morning, you're gonna write on a little in a spreadsheet or on a piece of paper, like what your screen time average from the week before was. Because then there's actually that like recognition that, oh, whoa, I literally was on my phone for 12 hours a day for an entire week.
Wow.
Or at least have that conversation. And luckily for iPhones, you can see the breakdown of like what that time spent on the platform was by app and category. I think from there you can start to add in like screen time limits as well. For the really extreme cases and like that really large battle, I think that's when we would recommend turning to like a Bark phone or one of these other phone providers that really has been built for kids. I mean, everybody knows iPhone wasn't built with a child in mind or a child's brain in mind. And so we like whether it be TrueMe or Gab or Pinwheel or Bark or Melvin and I this morning talked about the Light phone, which is really, really cool. Like there are a lot of different options out there that make it easier for that parent to set the controls, and then it's really hard if to find a loophole, if at all. And so sometimes, the issue with iPhones is if it's not set up perfect, you can always kind of find a loophole or keep snoozing. And so in those extreme cases, I think we recommend, not extreme cases because it happens all the time. In those cases that you mentioned, like kind of turning to those types of partners.
Sure.
And also at the end of the day, we always recommend that families, when they give that access to a device, they always mention and make it clear that like that phone is theirs at the end of the day. And so if they want to look through it, like it is not a gift. And until they're paying for it each month, or even in that case.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. When it's a gift for like a birthday or Christmas or Easter or whatever it might be, it kind of that ownership kind of gets transferred with it sometimes, or can be implied like that.
That's so good. I've never considered it's a gift, but I got it. I pay for it. So you should assume, but no, like they think it's mine now. That's my stuff. I don't, and so even changing the language to, anything else. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. So what are some action steps for, passionate parents? Is there like a tutorial on Parent ProTech? Is there like a preview page? What is something, if they're listening right now to the recording or currently like, hey, I love what we're talking about. What is some next steps for them to do to really continue to educate themselves on either the Parent ProTech platform or just this current situation at large?
Yeah. So we'd love to lean in and partner with whether it be the church or the school or individual families and church leaders, whatever that might be. We've got a lot of really good videos on our website, www.parentprotect.com. And on that, we've got a contact us page. And
Okay.
so if there's any church or entity that's interested in learning more about how we partner, I can always hop in and do a quick demo of library and all of those resources, and then shoot over a demo that they can check in on their own time. We'd love that opportunity. And then my email is brock@parentprotect.com. And so we're always available to lean in and support. And one thing I will add, in some cases, whether it be the sextortion case that we helped with or whatever, but anything that fits with that mission of like, if we cannot prevent just one kid from being hurt, if it aligns with that mission, then 100 out of 101 times we're going to lean in. More odds than that, we're going to lean in and
Yeah.
support. And so anything we can do in that context, we'd love to be a part of it.
No, I love that. And I appreciate that's, again, your heart was the biggest part of the original conversation months ago. And this does seem professional because it's on a webinar, but there is such I have such a massive passion having 3 young children that aren't in this space yet. I have a passion to inform myself, inform my friends that have kids a little older than me and across the spectrum of what's happening. And so just thank you so much for being in this place. There are potentially probably easier startups to be a part of, and things are a little less messy. But when it comes to our kids, I think I don't know what more noble call to say, hey, if we help one, it will be worth every call, every change, every video, every edit. And so and just again, it's such a haunting, wild thing to say out loud that, again, from the Girl Scouts of America's, from their data, they're saying 1 in 4 young girls have a well thought out suicide plan. Not they've considered it, but it's well thought out. And so how many hours are you agonizing over your pain until you get to that point? And then and we're in this fight with you. And I know the pastors and parents on this call and that are listening to the recording want to be as well. And so sometimes we just need a nudge and or just the next step to take. And so again, visiting Parent ProTech, not protect, but tech. So protech.com or Brock at parentprotech.com. I'll let you know that Brock is unbelievable at follow up. So if you do reach out, he will get back with you, and he's not just firing that as a dummy email. And so, Brock, just appreciate you guys. Thank you to Mel for being on the call. Tell Joshua he's a stud, and hopefully he gets better soon. And man, we are praying, truly are praying for this company to absolutely explode and thrive in this space because it's such a need. And so thank you so much, Brock, for being on the call.